All right. Welcome, everybody, to our first vlog recording. We've got Laz from Network Doctors here. So today we're just going to talk about some of the difficulties people have after getting their cert or trying to get their cert while they're studying for it. So Laz has graciously agreed to come and talk shop with us. So we hope you guys get as much out of this interview as we do. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Believe me, I know the pains that people go through to try and get into the IT field. Myself, when I get out of school, one of the things that I found very difficult was to get into because it's a niche. It's a very tight niche to get into, but persistence pays, and definitely having the right resume, having the right certifications, and how you sell yourself is how you're going to get on board. I always tell my students that one of the things is ammunition. What is ammunition? Ammunition is paperwork, certifications, degrees if you have them, and then anything else that can help you to further make you look better because certifications are right now leading the degrees because people that have their bachelor's in, say, computer science, not to knock that down, that takes a lot. But what happens is a bachelor's in computer science is the same thing as networking. So in order to, you really need to know what you want in this IT world so you can guide yourself and study correctly for the certifications or degrees that you want.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that too. I remember when I was going back through high school, we had our school counselors would bring out this chart and kind of show you, if you get your bachelor's degree, this is how much money you'll make by the time you're 60. And
Yeah.
oddly enough, they don't show those charts anymore. I was just actually talking to my nephew about this, and he was like, "No, we've never had that." And one of the reasons is exactly what you said, and that certifications are worth much more in terms of the longevity of a career than a degree is, unfortunately, at least with respect to certain technical disciplines. That's not true if you're going to be a doctor or lawyer, perhaps, but
No, of course not.
with specific technical disciplines, especially Cisco, it absolutely is true. And I find that absolutely fascinating. It really doesn't pay to go and get your degree first um, in engineering at a four-year university right now. It's going to put you in debt. Um, that just is what it is. So that's how valuable the certs are. And another thing is, it is about ammo. You having your certs down. I agree. I think it's not so much also just having those certs on paper, but a lot of people when I talk to, they have difficulties getting hired after they get the cert, and I'm like, well, what did you do? And it's people for people who don't get hired, it's almost always the same thing in that they don't evangelize themselves. They show them a resume and they say, this is my certification. And one of the things that Kevin Wallace is famous for talking about is falling in love with networking. And so I try to encourage people when you go into that interview, you need to show them that you're in love with networking. You can't just show them the cert.
Yes.
That's great, but you need to get in there and you need to talk about what your favorite thing to do in networking is. You need to talk about how you even if something as simple as subnetting, which isn't even practical so much in today's world. If you can just sit in there and talk about how much you love subnetting and how good you are at it, that's the key is showing them that you're in love with the interview. So I agree with those points, and that's kind of been my observation and how I try to help people too.
No, no, definitely. The same thing. I mean, we've had, when I used to work at the college, we used to have a lot of students or a lot of employers come into the college. Because I told them, listen, instead of sending students out to the workforce, why don't you have the employer, the IT manager or director or somebody within IT come to the college, see what the students are actually doing? Because one of the things they run into, well, you have no experience. Well, that's not true. They do have experience because they're actually, in some colleges anyway, and some technical academies, they're actually working on live equipment. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So if the employer sees that, they're like, oh, wow, these guys are actually configuring live routers. They're actually configuring switches. But here's the kicker that you just said it. You got to show passion. You got to show desire and say, hey, I love doing this. I love running these cables. I get off on seeing things get connected. If they see that excitement, they see that ambition, They say, you know what, this guy, no matter what, he's going to figure it out. Because one of the things I used to work for Bell South, one of the things that they taught us was either know it or know where to get it. And that's also Cisco's mentality. Cisco doesn't expect you to know everything. It is impossible. It's a huge world. So if you don't know the answers to something, man, take the initiative and go out there and find out and get it working. That's the kind of employee that they want.
Yep.
And I mean, that's what I see in anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree, and it is, and it's it's a lot of it's kind of a weird a field we're in because admittedly, a lot of us that are prone or have the propensity to get into the networking field, we're socially shy. A lot of us really are. It's taken me my career to actually get over those hurdles, and now I'm probably a little bit too outgoing. Yeah, but it's kind of the best thing and worst thing about us. It allows us to get in and really dive into material and learn the books, but it prevents us from evangelizing ourselves, as I said earlier. And so it is just to really get down with your peer groups and work on how to do that for yourself and how to market yourself. Um, and so another thing I wanted to talk about is um, we have an amazing course that we're putting together through, and just full disclaimer for our audience that Network Doctors and AlphaPrep, we've both partnered together, and uh, we're doing some pretty big things for this year. And one of those things that we do is we sell an exam engine that helps people pass their Cisco cert, and it comes with a pass guarantee. And one of the few complaints we do get about it is people who get in and they write in and say, hey, we're having issues. We can't get all the way to our knowledge level of 7. Or this is another way to say we can't quite finish studying for the exam. So the question I wanted to talk about, or I guess the subject I wanted to talk about a little bit today is what are some things that you've noticed that help people stay focused and finish preparing for their exam? Because I feel like even if we provide them with all the material they need, there's still a percentage of people who will work hard and get that, they'll be 20% away from the course and then they'll drop off. And so I wanted to talk about that with our audience too.
Okay, well, I mean, as far as so many learning platforms, that's usually the case, except where I'm on now, which is pretty hands-on, because people like hands-on. People, it's not back in the days of me. I don't know how old you are, sir. I don't need to know. Uh, but for me, it was large classrooms, 2-hour lectures, and you sat there and you took it. Today's student body is not like that. So one of the things you need to engage students. You need to make it interesting and fun and straight to the point. Nobody likes the guy with the suit and tie anymore, and the monotonous voice and all that. They call it gamification, and as well as smaller, less. Well, they don't want these videos or these lectures to last for hours. Hey, RIP, for example, or subnetting, I wrote a book on that. So it's like subnetting is the kryptonite of all IT personnel, even though you have calculators and everything you have out there to get it done. But that is the scariest part of anything. And it's really fairly simple. It really, really is, even with
Right.
IPv6. But you got to make it fun, and you got to make fun of it so you can have that rapport. It is really the instructor. I think it's the instructor's responsibility to make sure that the student is engaged. You can only do so much. If people are just reading questions, 1,000 questions, 6,000 questions, and they're just memorizing, they're not understanding,
Right.
they will fall off. One of the things that they fall off is in subnetting, because in route summarization or subnetting, I'm teaching them, listen, this is very simple. Look how quick you can do this. You can do this under 30 seconds. This is how you do it. And I'm very dynamic and I'm loud and what have you. I don't know if I'm obnoxious, whatever, but they like it. But because I keep them engaged and then I make them do it and then I give them the reason why they're doing it. And I feel that in universities and colleges, if they're just doing chapter review questions or just questions themselves, they get bored. They got to know, okay, what's behind this question? Why is this the answer? But, and you got to schedule yourself accordingly. Oh, we don't have time to run through all the questions. Well, then you didn't schedule yourself accordingly. If you're going to study, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 questions, however they may be, okay, first understand you're getting clean, legitimate questions coming straight from Cisco. You're not getting some dump that somebody threw out there that may be right or may not be right. It's a 50-50 shot. You're getting legitimate, real questions. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, say, okay, how long is it going to take me? Schedule yourself, because that's what I do. Say,
Right.
okay, how long is it going to take me to go ahead and understand what they're actually asking me? And then I said, oh, okay. Oh my gosh. So this is what this means. But you know what it goes back to though? It goes back to you got to love it, because I can stay all day reading. I hate reading. I'll be the first one to admit it. But I'll pick up a book that deals with networking, and I'm like, oh my God, I love it. This thing's working. Let me try it out. Let me try it out. Let me try it out. And all this, and then after you're done, you're gonna see that those 6,000 questions, really, they say, my God, I studied 6,000 questions, and they were like only, maybe 85% of it were there. The other stuff is just hands on.
Right.
So that's why when I reach my students, it's a lot of lab work, a lot of lab work. And when they meet with me, then it's okay. Why are we doing this? And I'll yell. I've been complained about that. Hey, stop yelling at us. Now, I'm not yelling. I'm catching your attention. One thing's in the classroom where I can walk around and see what are you doing, and I can keep you focused and see what you're doing. But unfortunately, we're going to have that percentage. So to answer your question directly, you need to schedule yourself appropriately. And then lock yourself in the bathroom. And this is one guy that I had as a student. He actually locked himself in the bathroom. He was a married man. He had kids, dog, the whole 9 yards. He said, listen, Laz, I had to lock myself in the bathroom. Everybody was asleep, and I was studying my book. That's dedication.
Right.
I had a truck driver who I told, listen, don't take the boot camp. If you don't have no background on networking, don't do it. Especially when you're talking about standards, OSI, cabling, Cisco three-layer model, all these different things, all these standards. It's boring. You got to admit it's boring. But you got to force yourself to go through it. It took him 4 months, and he got certified. But he did it
Yeah.
because he wanted to improve. So the first thing you need to do, yeah, schedule yourself, make yourself interested, have a passion for what you do. Is this is really what I want? And then when you're reading the question yourself. Hey, why is that the answer? Why is this? There's usually a rationale that goes along with it. And you're like, okay, now it makes sense. Okay, and keep going, keep going. You just gotta burn the midnight oil. Bottom line, you do whatever you have to do, because believe me, I used to take my books. My wife went to a baby shower, and the guy wasn't allowed inside, so I sat outside reading my books, reading my books, reading my books,
Yep.
watching my CDs, looking at the videos, doing whatever I had to do, because I know that if I wanted to be successful, I had to know my CCNA, because that's what I chose. Because I
Right.
did Microsoft and I did that, but I chose Cisco. So if I'm going to make that my career, then you must like it. So then you gotta just get excited about it and go for it. I mean, that's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, and I think there's some great points there. It's the scheduling thing is I've heard it, phrased in so many different ways. My favorite is the six pack approach, and it gets back to the same thing as scheduling is you have to have a schedule. And if you think about well, maybe 10 years ago when I was in shape and had a six pack, but that's not the case anymore. If you wanted a six pack, you were on a schedule, and every day on your schedule you were doing abs. And it took that work to do it, right? It's you have to be on a schedule and you have to stick to it, and it's no different. If you want your CCNA, you need a six pack brain, and you have to be on a schedule and you have to follow it without you just can't miss. It's like going to college and missing a class, and it's like that costs you money. Well, it costs you money if you miss your schedule that you have planned for your CCNA study time. And the other thing you said too, I guess I'll just try to summarize, and I completely agree with is you. It's not. It's more of just you don't want to go it alone. There are a amount of people out there that can actually do this by themselves and have no help in the community. But would you want to build your house by yourself, or would you want to build your house with four other people to help you?
Obviously.
It's not that you can do it one way; it's that you shouldn't do it that way. You should have community. You should have help. Um, and that's kind of getting back to people who are listening is I really think you have a really good setup in that you're getting to host classes and be a part of these groups. And it really is, in today's age, it's where we're going to. And so you're really taking the place of that college instructor, and you're getting rid of it, and we're doing it all online now. And so I really would encourage our listeners to take a look at what you have to offer, because you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting all the study prep, and then you're getting to actually have a classroom where not only you but their peers will hold each other accountable. So that really is it sounds simple, but it's amazing on how many people just don't want to follow that. It's like, just be there, fall in love with it. Learn about your peers, get to know them, encourage each other. It's really I think that I couldn't agree more that is the right formula uh, for success. It's just the building blocks you kind of need to have. So
What you said there, as a matter of fact, right now I am running a boot camp, and there were two students who just started networking. One of the students, he really didn't have much. He was going to college. Uh, he wasn't too happy about it. He had the simulators and stuff like that, but he had no live equipment. This other student, he's been in the field for a decade. All right, so but now the job is requiring him, and that's why certification is so important. If you want a higher paying position in your job, now the way you prove yourself, unfortunately, not just based on experience, they HR needs paperwork
right,
to put in your file. They need that. So you got to show them, hey, I know what I'm doing, but you know what? I'll go ahead and prove it to you because you need a piece of paper. So that's the reason you take your certification. Well, this kid, these two guys got together, and the guy that's been in the field for over a decade actually mailed, and they're on opposite side of the states. He mailed him switches, routers, cables, and all that stuff. He says, "Listen, I got plenty of this stuff.
hmm
Whatever you need, I'll give you, I'll help you," because he himself was a mentor at one time. So, I mean, listen, this guy, I mean, in all the years that I've seen in education, even in the field, nobody helps each other like that. And what he just did for this kid was amazing, because now he has a lab at home that he can actually play with
yeah,
from the lowest level to the highest level, and actually connecting everything. But the kid is passionate because he has a whole bunch of courses, he has a whole bunch of books. And that also, I want to say, is to be careful, because you can have too much information. Because you have, let's say, I don't want to mention names, but you have a whole bunch of different books that deal with the CCNA, different authors, different opinions. Something is math, but you may not get all the information. Something may be missing. It may be incorrectly stated. One of the things that I say is, you're taking a test. This is not what the real world answer is. Okay, you're taking a test.
right,
So when you're doing the CCNA, let's say when you configure EIGRP, I don't want to get too technical, but when you configure EIGRP, you configure it a certain way for CCNA, but for CCNP, you configure it differently. So that is what he said. And I saw it happen. I saw it happen where a very professional instructor, he knew his stuff, but since he was so up there, that's how he taught.
right.
But when they went to take their very low level, not low level, but they went to
You
take their
just
CSENs, no, it was like they were configuring at his level. So
ah
they got the question wrong.
yeah,
So that's why you guys say, okay, if I'm studying for the CSEN, that's what I need to focus on. You don't need 20 million books. You need XYZ book, Cisco Press, which is the leader,
hmm
okay? And everything you do, so Cisco Press. Uh, they're a little bit granular, a little bit hard to read. If you need maybe something to help you with, you get the e-learning courses, the videos that AlphaPrep has. Listen, that guy, I love that guy. He explains things perfectly, okay? So that's another thing. When you're choosing a course to take, look at the free stuff that they preview. Listen to the person. If you can relate to that individual, even in YouTube, when you go to YouTube,
yeah,
there's some YouTube videos that I want to find something. I'm like, yeah, I don't even last 10 seconds on there.
yep,
But I'll find somebody else and they make it interesting. And I'm like, oh man, I like this guy. He made a joke. He did this.
yeah,
but I learned, and that's the key. But too much information can be also bad. I had students in the college where they were just, hey, Laz, I got these 3 books. I go, have you read this book that's for the class? He goes, no. Then why are you reading these 3 books?
Yeah. And
First, read this one.
yeah, I would agree with that completely. I think um, I, I get it. This is a debate that happens often, and maybe we can do another a follow up to talk about just the material, the reading material that you should use. But
Exactly.
I can't see a case made that can defeat any argument I have to suggest reading something other than official Cisco Press books for the exam. When you're studying for the exam, uh, do nothing other than use the official Cisco Press books. And I won't go into author names either, but that is so important. When you're done with the exam, some of the other authors out there, like you said, are brilliant, and you will gain knowledge from them. But when you're studying for the exam, it's just use the book that was created for the exam. It's just simple logic. And then
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
wanted to get back to your first point when we segued into this topic, and that is kind of talking about not just getting a new job, but it's what do you do when you get the cert and you already have that job. And you brought up a good point, and this kind of got back to your kind of you need to have ammunition, and then when I kind of that in with you need to evangelize for yourself is you're right. You need to give HR that initial paperwork too. But a little story about this is specifically for people who I have my cert now. I did great, and now I still have the same job, not getting a pay raise. And I've seen people in our forum groups in Facebook kind of complaining about this, like, well, why am I getting a cert if I'm not getting a pay raise and this kind of stuff? Well, one, you're keeping your job, so that's a good thing. And two, the reason why you're not getting a pay raise or you're not getting a promotion, in my opinion, is you're doing things wrong. If yesterday didn't have your cert and today you do, and you didn't get a pay raise, um, you're doing something wrong. And I think that is it's not just giving HR your ammunition. And to tell you a little bit of story is you need to take action on what you've learned too. I worked for a large healthcare company when I first got out of my schooling for tech. And I was kind of shocked, and this gets back to what you talked about not having real world experiences, because I actually had more experience than the majority of the guys who were in the network closets working. I knew what I was doing because I'd been hands on.
wow.
And we had, just for an example, we had a big move, and we had about 400 computers that needed to get moved. And it wasn't just computers; there were printers and other networking equipment. And so there was a lot of patchwork to be done, and there was a lot of different VLAN settings to go through. Like there was a lot of stuff that had to get done, and I knew that I could do it. And now they had a team of 5 people scheduled to sit down in several closets and have this whole game plan figured out. And then we had a date scheduled to do this. So the night before we went to go do this, I had everything through emails, and I went in that night about midnight, and I did the whole job myself in about an hour and a half. I did everything.
Whoa.
And so when everyone showed up to work, I said, "Hey, we're good to go." And it's about applying what you've learned and proving that that cert has made you more valuable. And that's exactly what I did. And I try to encourage people to do that. Show them that you can now do. You can't just tell them, "Hey, I can do that job and I can do the job of 5 people at once." Like, anybody can tell you that. Show them that. So I really encourage people to get, the stuff, you've been working with it. Find a situation that you can leverage and prove to your employer that you are actually more valuable, and that's when you get the return. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. About a month and a half later, I had a huge pay raise, a completely new job title, and I had to do less monotonous work, and I was focused on what I wanted to do, which is all Cisco stuff. And so I think that's an important thing to take away for those of you that you've got your cert to increase your status at work, and you haven't done that yet. So there's still another step. You can't just say, "Here's my cert." You've got to get in there and prove your worth as well. So,
Exactly, because there is people out there getting certifications that they're just memorizing. They
right.
really never even touched a switch, a router. They've never created a cable, punched down, nothing. They've never done anything of the sort. Uh, you got to go there. I can tell you the best example, and because I dealt with a lot of schools, is all these technical colleges and even technical academies and career colleges. Okay, when it comes to VLANs, They don't VLAN anything out, but yet they all complain about, hey man, why is the network so slow? Why does it take me so long to get to the internet?
Yeah.
Uh, you're on VLAN one. You have over 700 students that come in and they're looking at Facebook. They're going back then at MySpace and all these different things, which should have been blocked to begin with, but it wasn't done. So what I did, I said, I talked to the director of education. I said, listen, this is the reason why this happened. And God forbid that the IT guy would shoot out an image to a room because that would just kill you. Because back then ghost all the computers.
Yeah.
And if you do that at the same time and you have an IT class, oh, we would run the ACP servers in one classroom, and everybody in the school will be getting different IP addresses because we're all on the same VLAN. So, so I told the director of education, I said, listen, if you want to increase not only the security but the bandwidth and have better control of your network as far as where the students are at, why don't you just make a VLAN per classroom? It's very simple,
Right.
okay? And do it that way. And then you can create, well, I didn't get too technical with him. The IT guy was there because the IT guy was a former student of mine that I recommended for that position. And I said, and you can create access lists and what have you, and then you can control it by policies on the firewall and blah blah blah. But just VLAN out, and you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference because they had switches that were daisy chained. So if one room went down, all the other rooms would go down. It was crazy. So they never took my advice, obviously. But at least I came to them and I told them, and the IT guy he took that with him, the student, and he now moved on and moved up
Right.
because not only he understood, he knew how to do it, he knew what it took. So, because that kid stayed with me from morning till night, because I taught 3 sessions a day, starting at 8 in the morning, didn't finish till 10 o'clock at night. And that's how my students did it. And I showed them, you just can't, hey, I have a cert, I got my A plus. Have you built a computer? Have you
Yeah.
actually troubleshooted an issue? Because I worked when I first started. It was called TAG, the Answer Group. They no longer exist. It was an outsourcing company. I worked in the IBM ThinkPad division. I never worked in a laptop in my life. But again, I looked at the scripts. I looked at the database of knowledge. I saw what the problem was. I asked questions. Everybody hated me because I would ask questions over and over and over and over again. And I made sure that I learned that laptop. I learned what I had to do.
Right.
So when it came down to me, then my average handle time, which is what it's called, it was very low. It was down into the 4, 5, 6 minutes because there's usually about 7 minutes to handle a call. So when they saw that, they're like, So they started noticing me. Luckily, I got a job at Bell South after that, and I didn't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
But again, I agree with you 100%. Paper is just to get your foot in the door.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. So they can notice your resume. All right, and then you can go ahead and once you get in there, be first professional. Second of all, be enthusiastic about being there. Know the company that's hiring you. Do your research before you go for the positions that they're looking for. If you may not know something, research it before you go. So be prepared for every little scenario. It's impossible,
Right.
but you can prepare as much as you can and never say, I don't know. Say, you know what? That's a good question. At the moment, right now, I don't remember or I may not know it, but I'll find the answer to that. And that's what you do. Tell them that oh well, it's like most people nowadays. I don't know. I hate that word. Say, you know what? I don't know, but I'm gonna find
But I
out.
will find out. We learned that.
But I will find out.
Yep. Must be a
That's what you
military
have
man.
to do. Well, that's
It's
it's like you
true.
said, man of action, a
It
person of
is.
action.
I do not
You
know, but
gotta
I
take
will
action.
find out. So this is probably a good place. I think we've got a lot of content through. So I guess I just kind of I'll address our audience in that if you guys like what you heard today, make sure to like, comment, and share and subscribe. And we'll do this more often. And if you want us to talk about anything in particular related to networking, please do. And then I'll just leave it with this: is I hope by watching today you've kind of got a better understanding of how passionate both of us are in terms of
Uh,
networking. It's not just about helping you pass your exams. If you guys, um, I have a Facebook study group. Laz is a part of that as well. It's free to join. You can ask all the questions you want. If you need help with mock interviews, you can email either of us. I have a team that will actually arrange a time for you to do that, and Laz can help you get in touch with us. You can email us about anything if you have questions, even after you have your cert. I just don't want our audience to feel like, you come to us for a service to learn how to pass your exam and that's it. This is what we do. It's what we love to do. We don't do anything else but this. So uh,
Yes.
reach out. We'll get to you. I go through emails every day, about a couple hundred, and so I'll get to you at some point. It might take a couple of days, but we'll get to you, and we'll do the best to help you out, not just to get your cert, but to keep continuing your career. So don't hesitate to reach out, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate it.